Carlos Nelson with Cascade Media Group, and today we have our reoccurring guest, Mr. Doug Blodget from the Sheriff's Department. Welcome to the show, Doug.
Hey, what's going on, Carlos? How are you?
It's all good. What are we going to talk about today?
You know, it's kind of something that's recently become I've become acutely aware of about how we're being programmed or inundated with things that are reported as fact from our mainstream media, and these quote unquote facts that they continue to report are skewed to obviously support one position or another. It doesn't matter if you're a CNN watcher, a Fox watcher, or whatever it is. Every one of these mainstream medias have some sort of, for lack of a better term, reason, or yeah, they have a different they have a different cause for doing
right, left, or even in the center.
Yeah, they're doing their dead level best to continue to separate us as a people and divide us with just it's the same rhetoric. It's just the different ends of the scope. We have found ourselves here recently, combating or attempting, so to speak, to combat some of the information that's been put out via, quantifiable fact as far as, officers involved with, critical instances or shootings of Black subjects and things like that. And, some of that being reported by the mainstream media, again, they're taking a snippet of the information, even though it's all available. They're taking a very small bit of that and blasting that out to continue that kind of divisive rhetoric. And this narrative that's being woven is truly damaging the very fibers of our country. To where it used to be, man, when we were growing up, we were able to disagree on things. How many times did you used to say, well, we just got to agree to disagree, but you can still hang out with the dude. You can still have drinks with the person. Nowadays, it's become such a divisive culture that if you don't agree with that person standing next to you, from time to time, your safety is truly, at concern. I mean, look what happened at the Capitol. Somebody didn't agree with an election or the way an election was ran, and they decided to lay siege to our government. And it hit so close. I mean, here recently, my sister and I got into a very heated debate over some of these topics. I'm like, that's just not correct. But the problem is when you say, hey, no, there's quantifiable fact out there. I don't have to recite it to you, but I'm more than happy to give you the link of the website to get you there. Right? It just goes bad from there.
Yeah,
nobody wants to hear
about this off camera. And when you were saying your sister, Victoria Queens, and I told you that's where I went to middle school.
Right.
And really, I didn't go into that, but we were bused. I lived in East Elmhurst.
Oh, I know where it's at.
And we were bused to middle school. That was during the 60s.
Right.
And, we talked about social media also, and the influence of social media really, and the algorithms putting you in situations where like-minded people, that's all you see on your feed. And so that reinforces things that might not be true. And
well, not only to reinforce it, it literally ingrains you with it. I mean, it's very easy to have a debate with somebody when both people are playing on the same page. The problem is that when everything that you get force-fed to you, be it from your social media feed, be it from the news station that you choose, all it does is just reinforce the same divisive rhetoric. And I got to tell you, I mean, from kind of an art of warfare way of speaking, I mean, it is ingenious. It is truly ingenious. But I find myself having some discussions with some people, especially at the barbershop. It's kind of one of my favorite places to talk to folks. And I'm sitting at the barbershop and, I asked my barber and some of the guys that are sitting around, I said, look, for instance, the topic of use of force against Black males came up. And I said, let me ask you something. You ever been dirty by a cop? Ever? And I asked everybody who was in the barbershop. Well, no, not me, but I know somebody. Well, okay. Who? well, it was my homeboy's friend, or, it was my niece's, boyfriend or something like that. But it was very rare that you came across somebody that was like, yeah, man, shit had happened to me. And I asked him, I was like, so if you can't prove a story, let me ask you something. And I use this. We talked about JFK a little bit, and I was like, do you believe there's only one shooter? No. Why? Because all the information says otherwise. I said, okay, but you're willing to buy into some other narrative just because someone in the media is telling you to do that? Or because one of your Facebook friends is telling you to do that? Or whatever banner ad just came across told you to believe that? I was like, at what point in time do we stop thinking for ourselves as a people and go, wait a minute, let's see both sides of this coin? You and I have talked a lot of times offline about how, professionally speaking, I mean, we are far from perfect as a profession, for sure. But the vast majority of everyone in this profession is doing their dead level best to just try to do a job, a very difficult job, in a very difficult time that is just being made worse by the same divisive content that is just being flooded. And I mean, we can't sit down. Doesn't matter what station you watch, you can't sit down and have it slapping you in the face.
But let me say this to you. Why do they call this word sensationalism? What makes that word so powerful?
Well, because it's sensational in nature, meaning it's over top.
Now, what drives the news? What drives
money? Ad space, money.
All right. So why would I want to spend money with your network versus another network?
Because of viewership.
There we go. Now let's try sensationalism with viewership.
Right. No, I mean, it definitely, like I said, it's an ingenious plan.
You ever seen that movie Citizen Kane?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
All right. Kane said, if they ain't got no war over there, we're going to report one. We're going to get one going.
Right.
Yeah. He said, hey, you can't do that. His partner said, you can't do that. Kane said, yes, I can. Put that on the headlines. And so if viewership is the key to economics, then what was Ringling Barnum Bailey Circus? What was the freak show? It was like, show them something that, hey, and we got to bring that money in. And so right. When you look at history, as we talked off camera, you look at every war, German, all that stuff was caused on lies. But media, Goebbels, had the whole country.
I'm glad you brought up Goebbels, because I honestly, I really likened the, the fact that, you got five main companies that own all your major mainstream outlets, to some extent have a controlling interest in at least, most of them. And I'm like, man, Goebbels had the entire German population believing the same nonsense, the same rhetoric, basically that, the Jewish people were, a blight on society. And it didn't take him long to do it, just because he continually inundated them with it.
But let me say this also, just like they can project, they can freeze out. Mm-hmm. We talked about that off camera. I said, I have nothing against Jewish people. They lost 2 million people, 3 million. Let's give them 5 million. But the world won't forget that. But blacks, Leopold and them, just in Africa, they killed 10 million right off the bat. Does the world know about that? Not really. So, we have to look at the part that media plays if we want to change the direction of the country. And the country was built on, like, we got the 52 states, 53, whatever. Everybody was separate, but we was strong together. And differences make us strong. And until that real message is piped out, we're going to have issues.
Right. The division is what creates weakness, which allows us to be ruled like sheep.
Right. The messages that are coming out of the different media, I'm right and you're wrong. I ain't even trying to look at what your circumstances are. The reason
Right.
I have this show, and as I said, this is not funded by the police department, by the sheriff's department. This is something that Cascade Media feels we have to do, try to bridge this gap. My brother-in-law, Leon Harden, was on the crime commission. My godfather called the capo on the crime commission. My other brother-in-law, Ron Harden, retired from the police force. So I think I know a little bit about the good, the bad, and the ugly. But
Right.
you can't deal with none of that unless we're facing these issues, having these conversations, and hopefully our public this is presented to our public where they can take a second look at how they're viewing what's going on. And as you say, these snippets. I've I don't know whether you're referring to this thing with the police. I seen that they all on top of this kid and gun this and that. I think that's a tragic situation. I'm
Agreed.
not going to put my judge's robe on any of that because again, I know how media works. I know how our government works, and a right can be made a wrong can be made a right. But I know if we're not having some type of real dialogue, that's just one of many incidents
We
that
have, you said real dialogue, and I don't mean to interrupt, but that's one of the things that I wanted to, drive home. You can't have a real dialogue without being able to constructively disagree with someone. I mean, you and I are never going to agree on everything, but the fact is that we're both adult enough and professional enough.
I'm a Yankee fan, and I'm a Jet fan, and I'm a New York fan, and you probably Kansas City, and we never gonna agree.
But that's what I'm talking about. We're able to, I mean, even on serious issues, things like criminal justice reform or, welfare reform or,
all of that type of
yeah, all those things we can have an open dialogue about. We can disagree on. I can say, yo, Carlos, I ain't buying that. But at the same time, you're like, you're full of shit. I don't believe that.
Right. That's right.
But we can get away with that because we're willing to have that discussion.
Yeah, if you don't have that, and let me say this: have you been in the service?
Oh yeah.
All right. When you in the service and you in fraternities or you in certain types of groups, a lot of times that type stuff transcends all that racial stuff and, and what have you, especially when you're in a tight position. And let me say this also about y'all got the green line or the brown line with your sheriff's department, but the blue line, they be saying don't snitch, don't this and that, but the public don't even understand why other good police officers don't point out bad police officers, but and that's how it should be. But behind the stress of a lot of the public, they really don't put themselves in your shoes with that gun.
In many cases, there's a lot of people that, it's kind of like, I would never go to a high-end restaurant and look at the chef and tell him how to cook my meal. I'm paying him for his expertise.
Right.
I can't in his place. Right. Much like, why would you tell a cop what they're doing and how to do their job when you're the one that called them? Because you couldn't fix your own problems. That's why we're there. Right. Now, that being said, we just got lucky, and there's going to be a lot of stuff coming out about this, hopefully very soon. But we're purchasing this 540-degree full-on firearms training simulator, right? And it comes with this little thing. It's a little belt you wear, and if you get shot by whoever it is on the other side of that screen, it shocks you to let you know you just got shot. We're going to be doing a lot of stuff, bringing it out to the public and saying, hey, tell you what. We're going to put you in some situations that officers face and that are no different than anything that's been, dealt with here in the metro area. Let's see how you react. Let's see how it works for you. Trying to get those people to start thinking the way that these cops have to.
Right. Well, again, let me say this. I come out the 60s.
Right.
And in New York, it's like the pig. But especially with all the Black Power really just starting with Stokey, Huey, Rap Brown, all of these different people. But I started to realize once my brother-in-law was joined the police force, and I was like, fuck, if there ain't no Black policemen, that's got to be a beginning. I'm like, right. And so all of that has to do with training. And do the people at the top, as I talked to you about, we talked off camera about the 1%, the leadership, do they really want to buck the system? Because the system has a hold of all of us.
Well, they don't have to buck the system. That upper 1% created the system. Right, but
I'm saying us. It's up to us.
Oh, yeah, we have to.
That's what I'm saying. But every time that you buck the system,
you get smacked down.
Right. They make an example of you. And if you are a going on to religion, if you are a Christ person or that man was a revolutionary. You see what they did to him. People admire that, but they're not willing to go through the same crucifixion.
Absolutely. I mean, you got to be willing to, but at the same time, it's that old thing my old man used to say to me all the time, that at some point in your life, you will make a decision where you have to stand for something regardless of the cost. Right.
Well, that's where I'm at with what I do with my media company, and it's regardless who likes it. A lot of times it's very detrimental to me in a way that people perceive who I am that really I'm not. When you get to know me, people tell me that all the time. Hey, no, I'm just in media. I'm just giving you some things. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that that's what I believe. And so it's a tricky slope. So, hey, when are y'all gonna be unwrapping what you're going to be doing as it relates to trying to put them?
We've got the funding allocated, which is always when it comes to government is a very sticky process. But funding's been allocated. We've demoed it to the people that needed to see it, and they were very much in favor of it. And I will tell you this: that our sheriff has actually said one of the big things he wants to do is use that for like community outreach, like basically bring people in and put them in these situations. And then say, okay, tell you what, how would you react?
Hey, Doug, I used to, some things like that, Coney Island, and they had the cowboy one where you draw against, and the dead man. That's what y'all talking about, but y'all gonna give them a little pinch, show you.
But here's the thing, it's a little bit different than drawing on a dead man. It's basically like it's very completely interactive. I mean, you got to talk to these people. It recognizes, the key phrases or de-escalation terms you're using. I mean, all those things. So you can do one.
What I'm saying is an updated version of that version was the 60s, man.
Right. That was right next to that little fortune teller gypsy machine too over there in Coney Island.
Yeah, and so I think again, it's just like the technology we're using now. When we start thinking about how can we influence our general population to look at situations in a different light, and I think again,
it's something we have to figure out. I mean, it's something that we have to find this framework. We got to find this path, because if we continue to allow these pseudo truths, because here's the thing, you and I both know very well, just being grown men living in this world, every lie has a little bit of truth to it, you know what I mean, or else it's not believable. So when they allow these quote unquote, as they call them, pseudo truths or unverifiable sources to run the information that you're being taught, we've got to find a way to combat that with quantifiable, factual proof. Like, hey, here it is. You know, it sucks. There's some things that we have to realize, you know, as far as population, you know, as the human population is. Here's the thing. There is always going to be, always, we can't take it away. The human condition always works in direct contradiction to its best interest, right? That being said, there are always going to be situations in which the police will be required, not want to, not whatever, but they will be required out of protection of themselves or somebody else to use force. That is never going to stop. It is, you're talking about a country who has been literally built on the basis of bloodshed and violence, right? It's ingrained in our DNA, right?
As soon as you recognize that, then you can possibly start seeing what's what, and
Right.
you can accept it or not. And if you can't accept it, then you have to work on the behalf. Just like I said, I can't accept a lot of things that I see, so I take my personal money, my personal time to try to correct it, even though I feel I'm a raindrop in a hurricane or a tsunami. That's what I chose to do and choose to do, regardless of the circumstances.
Right. Well, you know, we just need more people like that. We need more people that are willing to have these conversations and willing
it's
to step
hard
out.
to be like that when you're raising your family, because I'm like I told you before, I'll be 70 next month. My family I was married 30 years. My family, all of them are grown. So if I go down, it doesn't take my family down.
Right.
Most of the people that are out here, if they lose their job, that affects their family. So that's going to affect how they come out their mouth and, you know, their total action. And so, again, I think what you're talking about with the new device, hopefully Cascade Media Group can play a role in making our community aware to come out where that device will be
showing up.
Yeah, and I would say this to all the skeptics as it relates to police brutality or what have you under stressful circumstances, because we have a lot of armchair quarterbacks, including myself. If I was in that situation, I would have done this or I would have done that. And what you're saying with this interactive deal, we'll see what you do. So
absolutely.
Let's not let your mouth run and you don't follow through with actions and be rated. Come out when they roll this out and test your skill set, your common sense against their training. And I'm not for either one, but I am for if I believe something and someone is saying, nah, you believe in wrong, and then they provide an outlet for me to come and see whether I'm wrong, I'm going to take it. And that's what we need more of. Doug, in closing, what would you have to say?
You know, I'll just say the same thing that we were just talking about. You know, take a minute and kind of consider where you're getting your information and how you're processing it. There's always multiple angles to any situation. And we've got to be a little bit better about trying to be more tolerant of the other human beings in our orbit. And just because an opinion differs doesn't mean they're bad people. Just because an opinion differs doesn't mean that they need to be crucified. Maybe listen every once in a while, and you might get a different take on what you think. It may open your eyes, it may not. But you can't say if you don't listen.
All right. And as we always say in closing, when you invest in your community, you're really just investing in yourself. Good night.
The program is brought to you by the Kansas City Business Association.